Well, Israel has declared emergency, but that's probably because of the northern border flare-up, the northern part of Israel and the southern portion of Lebanon. This after Hezbollah launched a barrage of what they called was its initial response to the assassination and killing of Fouad Shukr, a top Hezbollah commander. Meanwhile, like I mentioned before, you've got the Israeli Defense Forces that scrambled its jets hitting targets in southern Lebanon. An emergency has been declared about 48 hours at this point in time, could be extended further. And Nasrallah, top Hezbollah leader, he's come out and said that the preemptive decision of Israel, he denies that, well, it happened. He says, our attacks were a major success. We're going to get into a huddle and assess what's going to happen next. At this point in time, a fresh attack is something that Hezbollah is not mulling over. But Netanyahu has come out and clearly said this is definitely not the end on the attacks on Lebanon. Take a look at this, ladies and gentlemen. Hezbollah launched hundreds of rockets and drones at Israel early on Sunday, prompting Israel's military to respond with about 100 airstrikes on Lebanon, all in an effort to thwart a larger attack. This marked one of the most significant clashes in over 10 months of this border conflict. Now, as missiles they arced through the dawn of the sky on Sunday, air raid sirens blared in Israel and a distant explosion illuminated the horizon. Those were the scenes on Sunday morning as people began evacuating, and travelers at Beirut and Ben Gurion, respectively, were well worried about their travel plans. Smoke was seen rising from houses in Khiam in southern Lebanon. And 3 deaths were reported in Lebanon, and 1 death was reported, a petty officer from the naval wing of the IDF in Israel, though damage in Israel appeared to be fairly limited. Now, Hezbollah has suggested that it does not plan further strikes at this point in time. And Israel's foreign minister also stated that the country does not seek a full-scale war on its own. However, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu warned that this is not the end of the story. Let's quickly listen in to what Benjamin Netanyahu had to say.
מה שהיה היום זה לא סוף פסוק. חיזבאללה ניסה לפנות בוקר לתקוף את מדינת ישראל ברקטות ובכטב"מים. אנחנו הנחינו את צה"ל לבצע מתקפת מנע עצימה להסרת האיום. צה"ל השמיד אלפי רקטות קצרות טווח, והן כולן היו מיועדות לפגוע באזרחינו ובכוחותינו בגליל. בנוסף, צה"ל יירט את כל הכטב"מים שחיזבאללה שיגר למטרה אסטרטגית במרכז הארץ.
Well, now the Israeli Defense Forces used about 100 jet fighters that hit more than 40 target sites inside Lebanon in sorties over a period of 7 hours. Hezbollah launched hundreds of rockets themselves and drones towards Israel. Now, according to Netanyahu, the raids destroyed thousands of short-range rockets, all of which were designed to attack the citizens of Israel and the forces of Israel in Galilee in northern Israel. He also said that the IDF had intercepted all of the drones that Hezbollah launched at a strategic target in the center of the country. Hezbollah had used its Katyusha rockets, 320 of them according to Hezbollah's own official statements, to distract Israel's Iron Dome facility and the air defense system from a mass drone attack. Meanwhile, even as the beaches and the schools have been shut down, many travelers at the Beirut Rafik Hariri airport found themselves stranded on Sunday, as some flights were cancelled following the latest escalation between Hezbollah and Israel. Now, Jordan's flag carrier, the Royal Jordanian, suspended flights to Beirut on Sunday due to what they said was the current situation in the region, according to various state news agencies that have reported the same, without, of course, giving an exact time frame for the suspension. Even departing flights at Israel's Ben Gurion were delayed on Sunday morning, stranding worried travelers amidst the ongoing rocket barrages being fired by Hezbollah. Here's a complete report of exactly what panned out over the last 24 hours.
Hezbollah launched hundreds of rockets and drones at Israel early on Sunday, as Israel's military said it struck Lebanon with around 100 jets to thwart a bigger attack. The exchange is one of the biggest clashes in more than 10 months of border warfare. Missiles could be seen in the dawn sky as an air raid siren sounded in Israel and a distant blast lit the horizon. Israeli strikes could also be seen raining down on southern Lebanese towns. The Iran-backed Lebanese group Hezbollah said it had fired 320 Katyusha rockets towards Israel and hit 11 military targets. It added it was the first phase of its retaliation for Israel's assassination of Fuad Shukra, a senior commander, last month. At least 3 deaths were confirmed in Lebanon. Israeli military said 1 Navy soldier had been killed and 2 were wounded in combat in northern Israel. Israel's military said it had foiled a much larger attack with preemptive airstrikes after assessing that Hezbollah was preparing to launch the barrage. Hezbollah dismissed Israel's statement, saying it had been able to launch its drones as planned. It indicated it was not planning further strikes yet and said that the rest of its response to Shukra's killing would take, quotes, some time. Any major escalation in the fighting, which began in parallel with the war in Gaza, risks morphing into a regional conflagration, drawing in Hezbollah's backer Iran and Israel's main ally, the United States. Israel's foreign minister said the country did not seek a full-scale war. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu spoke in a statement on Sunday.
We are determined to do everything possible to protect our country, to return the residents of the north safely to their homes, and to continue to uphold a simple rule: whoever harms us, we harm him.
Sunday's strikes came as negotiators were again meeting in Cairo in a last-ditch effort to conclude a halt to the fighting in Gaza. The White House said President Joe Biden was following events in the region closely.
Meanwhile, Hezbollah leader Sayyed Hassan Nasrallah, he said on Sunday, addressing everybody in Lebanon, that his group would assess the impact of its rocket and drone attack on Israeli military targets earlier in the day before determining whether it would carry out further attacks to avenge a slain commander, Fuad Shukra. Now, the leader of the Lebanese armed group said in a televised address that it had been able to carry out its attack as planned, denying statements by the Israeli military that its preemptive strikes had stopped a wider attack by the group. Hassan Nasrallah, on your screens, speaking about 12 hours after the most intense exchange of fire between Iran-backed Hezbollah and Israel since hostilities broke out in parallel with the war in Gaza, said that the group had intentionally refrained from targeting civilians or public infrastructure, including the Ben Gurion airport in Tel Aviv. He said the group's main target was a military intelligence base about 110 kilometers inside the Israeli territory, again emphasizing on the fact that this was 110 kilometers inside Israeli territory, the deepest attack yet, and just 1.5 kilometers away from north of Tel Aviv. Nasrallah said that the group would assess the results of the operation, a retaliation for Israel's killing of top Hezbollah commander Fuad Shukra on the edges of Beirut last month. He went and added on that if the result is not enough, then we retain the right to respond another time, and went on to say that Hezbollah fighters had successfully launched a volley of more than 300 Katyusha rockets to distract Israel's Iron Dome defenses before sending attack drones. They included drones fired from eastern Bekaa Valley, a first for the group. None of the drone or rocket launchers were damaged in Israel's preemptive strikes, is also something Nasrallah mentioned. He went on to add that it wasn't, Hezbollah had not planned a larger attack at this point in time, specifically denying Israeli military statements that the group had intended to fire thousands of projectiles. But he went on to acknowledge that the operation had been delayed for several reasons, including what he called a mobilization of Israeli and American military assets in the region.
كانت النتيجة مرضية وتحقق الهدف المقصود، فنحن بنعتبر أنه عملية رد على اغتيال الشهيد القائد الحاج محسن سيد محسن واستهداف الضاحية قد تمت. وإذا لم تكن النتيجة في نظرنا كافية فسنحتفظ حاليا لأنفسنا بحق رد حتى وقت آخر.